issue shifting in the higher gears, maybe 4, 5, or 6 only? Is it jerking violently when you try and shift? Is it not shifting at all? To understand the issues fully, we actually took our 23 S1000RR, which is working perfectly, and I made it replicate these issues. And by replicating the issues, all I did was adjust the clutch to make it where it didn't shift in the higher gears. And I'll show you exactly what I mean.
What's up guys, BT Moto back with another tech video, and just to let you guys know, we do listen to what you guys have issues with on the motorcycle, and if you have concerns with the flash. That brings us to our most recent video here. I'm going to be talking about the clutch lever here. People are having issues using the quick shifter because of the clutch lever. The problems that we're seeing here don't make any sense, because if it works in first gear, it should work in sixth gear. So we started doing a lot of investigation on the issue ourselves, and we found, you see how the wind of this thing is jiggling right now, right? If I'm only going 75. Now if I'm going 100, there's more jiggle, you see? I just barely touched this thing, it's kind of doing that. If this clutch line is out of adjustment quite a bit, and we're going 120, 150, this is pushing more and more. You can imagine the amount of wind pressure on the front of the bike and this lever. It will depress the micro switch that is inside of this, well, right inside this part right here on the lever. Now the reason why they even cut a hole in the lever right there, you can see the hole, is because it needs to kind of direct air through it instead of on it, so it doesn't have a problem hitting the micro switch. But because the clutch adjustment needs to be in a certain way, if the clutch adjustment is slightly off, this will depress the switch, and then you can't shift the bike in the higher gears. You buy your bike from the dealer brand new, it's working great, you unlock your bike, you get your bike flashed, it's not working anymore, right? That's really frustrating, and the only thing you changed was the flash, right? So it's got to be the flash. Wrong. What happens is, when you ride this bike for a couple hundred miles, everything kind of gets settled on the motorcycle. That includes this clutch. So first what I'm going to show you guys here is a perfectly good working clutch. There's nothing wrong with this. I'm going to go take this thing from second gear to fifth gear or sixth gear, and I'll show you guys how it shifts. It's shifting just fine. We got to get a lot of wind on this thing, so it's going to be a little bit of speed here. So here we go. I'm not going to go full tilt on this thing, just a little bit of speed. See it shifting fine. Now you see that shifting fine. Now any of you that actually have been to that speed, 180 plus, whatever that was, I mean, I'm trying to look at the road, not the speedo, you'll know there's an incredible amount of wind that hits the front of this bike, and you can imagine the amount of wind that's just hitting this lever as well. So now I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting here. I'm going to purposefully mess this thing up completely. Alright, so to mess this thing up, I'm going to unlock it, and I'm going to push this forward. Here we go. I'm going to give this thing quite a bit here. So it's one complete turn. Alright, one complete turn here. This feels super loose now. Alright, let's see if we can get it into gear. Yep, gets into gear just fine. Takes off just fine. Low speed, I am good. Now we're going to test a little bit more of a speed on this thing and see if I can get it to mess up. You can see how much it's shaking already. It's not looking too good. Try this real quick, guys. So I'm gonna do this pull again, but I'm gonna push the clutch lever out, not in, but out, and we're gonna see if I can shift again. Now me pushing the clutch lever out while I'm doing the shifting and it works, that'll tell me the micro switch or the adjustment on the clutch is having an issue. All right, now you guys can see here, 30 miles an hour, the same adjustment, I'm shifting just fine. Just fine. All through the gears, just fine. But I'm going to use the same exact formula now. And we're going to hit a good speed. Let's check it out. And I'm going to push this out now. Okay? Pushing it out. So I'm holding it out right now. And you guys can see there, no issues. Absolutely none. That's how to see if the clutch adjustment is the issue on this. Now we can adjust the clutch properly where it's not doing this dangling in the wind every 5 seconds. If it's a little harder to get into neutral, that's also a sign, but it's not the end-all be-all, meaning if you can get into neutral just fine, it doesn't mean it isn't the issue. but it's also telltale because right now I have to pull, because I've thrown it so far of adjustment, I have to pull this all the way into the bar, when usually I'm just 2-finger at it and it's hitting my hand on the other 2 fingers. I can't do that right now as it won't let me go into neutral. So I'm going to adjust this proper again and go over the other issues, which could be the micro switch.
Now you can see on the video there what actually the issue is me just putting the bike out of adjustment. Now, I know you're probably sitting there going, well, if my bike is adjustment when I bought it brand new, how does it fall out of adjustment? Components break in, metal expands, and as they're breaking in, they stretch like the cable on the clutch. This is a clutch cable driven bike, so as you depress the clutch, it's going to stretch the cable. And the more it stretches that cable, the more it falls out of that adjustment. That's why you do that first service at 600 miles. BMW is supposed to look at the bike, look everything over, the chain slack, there's a few other components, and one of them is the clutch slack lever, and they're supposed to make adjustments for the rider. When it falls out of alignment, it doesn't depress these tabs on this micro switch. A micro switch is a very important component to shifting the bike. If the micro switch or the clutch lever is depressed too much, it'll engage the micro switch, and if it engages, it deactivates the quick shifter altogether. The bike will actually ride fine, just shifting from normal gears up to 60 miles per hour all the way to 6th gear, but as soon as you really lay into the bike, the wind will start depressing the micro switch itself, or the clutch lever, to the point where the wind will push, 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 and now the micro switch is depressed. That's how small the window is for the adjustment there, so it needs to be perfectly adjusted at all times. This is why I tell people before they ride every single time, they need to check quite a few things. You need to check your clutch slack, your chain slack, your brakes, your oil level, your tire wear. All of this stuff is important on these bikes because these are not 100,000-mile machines. These are machines that need a lot more maintenance than a car would, for example. And I've said this in a lot of videos. Also keep in mind that the 2324 S1000RR has a massive hole in power, about 20 wheel horsepower up top. Our tuning fixes this, and that means more power, which means more top speed, which could exacerbate your problem even more. Now that I've shown you what adjusting the clutch will do and how it can fix this issue, that may fix the issue for a lot of you people at home. That I've explained it and you guys can see it happening. You can see when I was riding the bike, there was at some point where the bike was jerking pretty violently in gears. Now this could be a culprit of a few things. Now I know it's the adjustment itself because that's all I did to change things, so I know when I adjust it back, everything's fine again, which is what I showed in the video as well. But there may be other components to this if it's not the clutch adjustment, meaning if you put an aftermarket lever on there, that could be the culprit as well. You could also be putting an aftermarket quick shifter on there or go to GP shifting. That could be an issue as well if there's some adjustment that was made incorrectly. New chain, if there's too much slack on it, will cause a lot of jerking violently on the bike. All these things need to be considered when you're talking about the clutch and how you're having issues with it. Even if you're coming to a stop and you're at a stop, for example, and you're not able to get into neutral, that's a big problem. You need to adjust your clutch properly. You should be easily able to get into neutral. Even if you may not be able to find it, you should be able to easily go right past it or just right on it. And I'll show you guys right here exactly what that adjustment, how small that window is and how little I'm pushing on the lever for that to happen. You can hear it right here. Hear the micro switch? Now this is just slack here. Check this out. And how much I gotta push past this? That's it. That's determining whether your bike shifts or not. Slack is to there, there's nothing there. Then here, see how close that is? That's it. All right, so let me show you guys how to adjust this thing. First, you loosen this nut, that's kind of a lock nut, and then this is the meat and potatoes right here. This is the big boy that actually does the adjustments. Now I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna push this thing forward. I'm minding where this is right now. I'm gonna push this forward. I'm doing a full, I'd say about a turn and a half right there. And you can see right here, now this has gotten super loose. Now it's clicking in the slack. That's how it falls out of adjustment. That's exactly what I did in the video right there. Where now you can see, now it actually is clicking. This will no longer shift at a certain speed. But if I adjust it back, then lock it in place. Now check it out. It's no longer in that slack anymore. And you can see how delicate this micro switch is. The tabs right here, if these bend, see this? If these bend, it means your shifter probably will work or will not work. That's how delicate this thing is. The micro switch itself is extremely delicate. When you switch levers on this bike, you need to make sure you don't bend the tabs on the micro switch. If you bend them, There's another problem. Now it's not depressing the microswitch, you can't shift anymore. There's a whole litany of issues that come with that. So make sure when you're installing this stuff that you're doing it properly. And a word about modifications. Keep in mind, I'm gonna recommend you guys do one modification at a time. I know it's really exciting when you get your bike unlocked, you got a litany of parts just laying out in the garage, you wanna throw them on and get everything done as fast as possible, and now your masterpiece is done. I get the mentality, but for someone that isn't really well versed in how these bikes work 100% or understand the inner workings of them, what I would solely recommend doing is doing one modification at a time. Let's say you do your levers first, you do your quick shifter next, and you make sure after every single one of those components is installed, the bike is working correctly. The problem becomes if you install 20 parts onto your bike and then tune it on top of that, now when something happens, you don't know where to point the finger. All you know is the bike was working before and now it's not working. So it's best to do the mods one at a time. Another issue can also stem from the braking on the bike itself. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll brake in this bike, and of course you can't go, maybe 6th gear, you're at what, 120 miles per hour maxed out, and that's where the limiters are completely done on the bike. That may not be enough wind to depress the microswitch and cause the issue. You may have the issue stock on the bike and you just don't know about it. And then when you unlock the bike, what happens is now you're able to breach that speed. Now you're going much faster in 3rd gear. 3rd gear, you can pass 120 no problem. Now it will stop shifting in 4th, 5th, and 6th gear because now you're going so much faster, the wind is depressing on that lever even more. Keep in mind when you go to BMW with this issue, you may not have any resolution whatsoever. This issue from 4th, 5th, and 6th at over 120 miles per hour, they're not going to be able to replicate it safely. They're not allowed to do something like that, basically. When BMW tries to look at this issue in the shop, they may just put it in a stand and it'll shift just fine. Just like you saw in the video there where I was shifting just fine even with my clutch completely out of sync there, because they don't really understand, or they don't really take the bikes that fast. They're not allowed to, guys. So they're gonna look at this and say, hey, there's no problem with the bike, I'm sorry. We gotta keep going, like we can't replicate your issue, but you're sitting there on the track or you're sitting there wherever you are, going fast speeds, now you can't shift anymore. Now if you've exhausted other avenues, your clutch slack is good, you're able to get in neutral in and out of it, everything's fine there. Your quick shifter has been proven to be good, it's nice and tight, there's no loose bolts, it's nice and angled, you haven't touched it since it's been stock, and it's been working fine since then. Your chain slack is perfect, and you're still having shifting issues. It may be the microswitch itself. The symptoms of a bad microswitch could be no shifting at all, or extremely bad shifting or jerking, bucking, being violent at any point during your ride, not just at top speed. If you're unsure on how to do any of this stuff, don't. Go take it to a professional, have them do it. Someone that understands the bike fully, that's able to make these adjustments properly on the motorcycle. I also had the same issue with the clutch adjustment on a ZX10R that a friend brought me and said, hey, my bike isn't shifting anymore with your tuning on it. And as soon as I touched it, I realized, hey, the clutch is way out of alignment. I fixed it, the quick shifter was working just fine. So this isn't a BMW specific issue. This is a motorcycle issue. It's just more prevalent on the S1000RR, the 23 Plus, just because there's such a little room for that engagement that they put in the bike. So you need to be really OCD when checking this stuff. So I hope this video helped. If you guys have any suggestions on new videos we should do or issues with the bike that you think we should tackle and kind of explain, leave them in the comments or email us. I think that's going to do it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.